and welcome to The Grind Never Stops, even if there is a pandemic. We are here at Comic-Con at Home 2020, still trying to keep all of the fantastic things that happen in person, on ground at San Diego Comic-Con, which we were denied this year because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But that doesn't mean that the grind has to stop. Okay? My name is Bryan Kaiser Tillman, and I am a professor for graphic design and sequential art at Norfolk State University. I have a small production company called Kaiser Studio Productions, where we make toys and games and comics and illustrations and all the fun stuff that will keep you a child and happy and innovative and imaginative. And I have been doing panels here at Comic-Con for the past 11 years, and the panel that I have grown to be known for is called Proper Pitching and Promoting Yourself.
Yes! Yes! So if you haven't noticed, one of the big things about properly pitching yourself and getting good is to not be late. Okay, and that's not even one of the rules that I'm gonna...
Now, as you can see, doing proper pitching and promoting yourself has been fantastic. It's been a passion of mine. People have really grown to like the information that I have given for being able to promote yourself, being able to get your product out to the public and in front of a bunch of people, and hopefully not stumble and completely make a fool of yourself. But that panel can't really happen without an audience, because there's a lot of interaction that happens, and one of the big things that I love to talk about is the interaction that happens when it's time to properly promote your work. But this panel is not about being able to properly pitch your product. This panel is all about getting to the point of being able to properly pitch. You have to be able to have that product. You have to have something for people to see, and it will never happen if you don't grind it out, okay? It has to be with you. You are the only person who is going to be able to make your product shine like no one else's business. Just you. That's right, you. No one else is going to be able to do it. Why? Because no one else has the passion for your project like you do. So if you don't have the passion, if you don't have the drive to make your product sing and shine and be as absolutely fantastic as possible, no one else will. I can guarantee you that. Okay? No one else will, right? I know you have that idea in your head. I know you've seen a product or you've seen a comic and you've thought to yourself, man, I can do that. I can do that. Well, that's fantastic. Get off your butt and do it. Right? Because now's the time. Now is the time to continue to grind with everything that has happened. Okay? You have to stay at home. You're not supposed to go out. You can't be 6 feet away from, you have to be 6 feet away from people. You have to do all this stuff that has changed the face of how we interact with people, how we do things, and yet we still have to be able to grind this product out. But in the end, it's gonna start with you. You're the one who's going to make this happen. And I can say that because if you look at Kaiser Studio Productions, you will realize I've put out 2 books on creative character designs. I have created a trading card game that is a mix between popular trading card games and role-playing games and chess, smashed it all together and got it published by Upper Deck in 2018. I have created a planner for creatives and project managers so that they can actually get more work done, okay? But I had to do that. I had an idea. I'm like, oh, this is going to work. Yeah, sure. Someone's going to create it, right? Because there are plenty of great minds that are out there that are thinking the exact same thing you are. And that is true. But the thing is that you know there's something about the way you are going to do it. There's something about how you would have produced this fantastic project. And you have to do it. You're going to have to get off your butt and do it. Okay? You're going to have to get off your butt and do it. All right. So I want to go ahead and give you 5 good tips on how to continue to get the grind and to use this pandemic to your benefit. Okay? That's the thing. That's the important part that you should pull from this, is that you don't let something like this happen. Now, granted, if you are sick or if you have sick ones, you have to handle that. Family first above everything else. But if everything is just kind of fine and you're just like, man, I ain't got nothing to do, I'm just sitting here, playing Fortnite, watching Netflix, and just letting the hours go by, that's not good. You can make something fantastic. You should be able to get out of this once we get to our new normal, right? And we're able to go back to conventions and we're able to go back to Comic-Con next year. You have to be like, look what I did. I did not waste my time. Look at what I was able to produce. That is on you. You have to be able to do that, okay? But I'm going to give you 5 tips on how to make sure that you can get it done. All right, so tip number 1. That's right, time management. One of the hardest things for us creatives to ever get right. Now, one of the big things that I've realized is that we as creatives are like goldfish, right? You're like, ooh, what's over there? Ooh, what's over there, right? You get a great idea and you're like, ooh, yeah, oh, yeah, right? And you jump from project to project back and forth and you're like, oh, I got an idea over here, I got an idea over there. Right? You can't do that, right? You have to be able to manage your time to get all of those projects done. That's going to be the important part, right? I'm not saying to have multiple ideas. That's great. Have multiple ideas. But you have to be able to manage those multiple ideas so that you can actually get them done. The important part is being able to get them done. Having a trillion ideas is great, but it's not going to help anyone unless you have an entire team that's going to do it for you. You come in and you're like, hey, so I had a great idea, and they go and execute. That's great. But for the most of us, I'm pretty sure you are like me and you don't have a team, right? And so you need to actually go out there and be like, all right, I got a great idea. Let me write this down. That's a great thing to do, right? Just write it down. Don't let it disappear into the ether, but go ahead and write it down. Like, oh, this is an idea I had. This is going to be fantastic. Then once you finish an idea, you can always come back to your stuff, right? That's important, okay? But time management is such a huge factor in being able to get work done, right? And most of us don't do it. Like, we'll get up, we're like, it's 10, 12, 1. Some of y'all sleep way too much. But, you're like, oh, well, I'm going to kind of do this, or I'm going to kind of do that. And you're going to wake up and you're going to go, nah, right? You're not going to do anything, right? And then all of a sudden the day goes by and you're like, oh, look, my PlayStation's here. Ooh, okay, the Xbox is here. Let me play this. Or, there's a great new show on Netflix. And all that is great. You got to be able to veg out, right? You have to have the time to relax. Because as they say, all work and no play, right? You can't do that. But if it's all play and no work, you're going to be stuck where you are. I don't know where you are. You might be happy. But for the most part, a lot of you, like me, like I was, there's something that you feel as though you have to get done. And the only way you're going to get it done is if you grind it out, right? You got to get it done. One of the things that has helped me is this planner, right? So yeah, I created my own planner because there was no other planner that was really helping me, right? There's a lot of like, oh, what's your appointment? And what's this and what's that? That's great. That's absolutely fantastic. But this planner right here is about getting projects done, right? It allows you to be accountable. It's visual. You get to see it. You get to mark it out. And you're like, okay. And you have to write it. The reason why I didn't make this planner into an app was because I wanted you to physically write things out. Because if you write stuff and then you get to see it and you get to check it off, that gives you a sense of fulfillment. So every time you're like, oh, well, I did that. Oh, well, I did that. And it's all about momentum, right? It's all about getting to that point where you're like, oh, yeah, I got to get stuff done. I got to get stuff done. And if you can visually see it and then you go back in the month and you check it out and you're like, wow, I really did get a lot accomplished. I'm telling you, the more you do that, the better it's going to be. So writing out a plan for what you want to do, or just a timeline, right? Because I know for a fact, like, I didn't realize this until I actually did it, right? I actually would write out the hours of the day. And I'm like, all right, well, At 5, I'm going to get up. 6, I'm going to eat breakfast. 7, I'm going to, work out. 8, I'm going to do this. 9, I'm going to do this, right? And then once you've actually written in all the stuff that you think you're going to do for that day, you get to see these huge gaps, these huge blocks of time where you're like, well, what am I going to do here? What am I going to do there? And it's just so easy to go, oh, well, I'm going to draw for 2 hours, or I'm going to stream for an hour and a half, or 5 or 6 or whatever, right? So if you actually lay it out, you can get this done, right? And you will see, you're like, oh man, I have plenty of time. Because the one thing that I can't stand is when I hear people say, well, I don't have any time. No, stop it. Stop it. That is absolutely not true. You have just as much time as I do. And if you look and you're like, wow, you get so much done. It's like, yeah, because I get my butt up and I plan out the day and I actually work, grind, right? So I hit it hard. I try and wake up in the morning and I try and get a lot done. And you can do the same, but you have to plan, right? And as I said, the one thing like, I don't have enough time. There's so much to do. I have a job. I have a job too. Well, I have family. So do I. Well, I have kids. I have 6 of them. What really is your excuse? Like, you just don't want to. And that is not good. But I'm telling you, if you even had an inkling and you grab yourself a planner and you're like, yo, I'm going to write this down. I'm going to do it. You will quickly find out whether you want to do it or you don't want to do it. Plain and simple. So I'm telling you, go ahead. If you're a list person, get a list. Write down a list. Checklists are fantastic. Write down, 10 o'clock, got to go here. Do this, do that, do that. Go ahead and do that. It's going to help. I guarantee it. But you have to stay consistent. It takes 21 days to form a habit. 21 days, 3 weeks. If you can do it consistently for 3 weeks, I guarantee you're going to keep doing it. Okay? So just go ahead and start writing it down. I want to do this. I want to do this. I got to get this done. And just being able to check it off is going to be that much more beneficial to you to getting it done. And it will show you if you are working. Because if you don't want to work, that's fine. That's fine. Just don't complain about the fact that you don't have enough time, because you have the time. You can do it. And I want to see it. Like, I want to see all of this creative stuff, all these new things. The best part about Comic-Con is that you can go down any aisle and see people's ideas, their creativity, and you're like, wow, look at that. That's amazing. Wow, that's amazing. Because I guarantee that the majority of you will go through Comic-Con or any convention and you're like, man, you feel energized, you feel inspired, you're like, I want to go do stuff. Then you go to the hotel and then you turn on Netflix, or you go do something else and you lose that inspiration and that momentum. But if you literally get up the next day and write, I'm going to do these things, I guarantee you're going to be on top of stuff. You'll start getting stuff done and it is going to be amazing. You will absolutely lose your mind if you go 1 month and just chart down what you're going to do. And you will get so much done in that 1 month. I guarantee it. All right? I guarantee it. All right? Just do it. Time management, number 1 tip of staying on the grind. You have to plan out your time. If you do not do it, it's not going to work. All right. Number 2. Yep, I said it. Study. Study, study, study. And the thing is that a lot of people stop studying. They stop researching. And for some reason, they're like, oh, isn't that like cheating? Like, if I look at other people's stuff, isn't that cheating? No, absolutely not. Stop that. I don't know why that's a thing. Like, oh, well, I can't do that. I can't use reference. I can't, use something that already exists. I have to be original. Well, you can't. It's always going to be an amalgamation of stuff that you've already seen, and that's fine as long as you put your own twist on it. But you have to study. You have to study. You got to come together and be like, all right, I'm going to do something about cowboys. Well, guess what? You should research cowboys. Look at the cartoons, the movies, the books, the illustrations, the toys, everything. Look at everything. Look at your history books, right? Try and find out old photos and stuff. And then draw it, sculpt it, 3D model it, whatever it is that you do, make it happen, because your twist is what's going to make it unique, right? But cowboys already existed. they still exist. And so if you're going to do something on cowboys, you should research it, right? You need to study. You need to study, even if it's your craft. If you're like, I want to be an animator, great. Go study animation. Go figure out why some company is better than the other company. Go figure out why you like this person over that person. You need to figure it out. And I don't mean just looking at other people's work, because that's great. If you want inspiration, that's absolutely fine. You look at other people, great. I'm talking about looking at other people, getting inspiration, and then going, how do I do that? Well, I can't believe they did this, right? That's what you need to do. You need to study what's going on. You need to study what's out there, because if you study the practices of those who have been absolutely fantastic, that inspire you and inspire millions, you're going to pick up something. You're like, oh, wow, that's a really good idea. That's a really good idea, right? Let me try that. Let me add that. Let me try this, right? You have to actually study. And for us creative people, it's actually really fun, because you can go to the movies, you can watch Netflix, you can play video games, but you have to study, right? It's one thing to watch a movie and then just go, yeah, that was fun, versus you watching a movie and then going, oh, wow, that scene was fantastic. Or you pause and you're like, let me draw that out. That's a great composition. Or playing video games, like, I can't believe they did this. Like, how did they do this? And you're actually studying, trying to dissect and pull apart everything that's there so that you can make a better product, right? So that you can make a better product. Because the thing is if you are able to find stuff that you like and then add into what you do, and you're like, this is what I want to do, right? Then you will produce something that people like. For instance, I've been studying like video games. Like, I'm trying to make this mock video game. And so I'm like, oh, let me take stuff from Mortal Kombat and Guilty Gear and Street Fighter and Bloody Roar and all these other games, and be like, what can I really do to make something interesting? Not different, just interesting, right? And then I was like, well, I know I need something to keep myself inspired. Like, I want to do something. So I started studying motion graphics and started looking at transition scenes and stuff like that. And then I created this. Now, the only reason why this even came together was because I was like, oh, well, I know I wanted to do this. Let me look at this screen. I studied all other screens that were out, like selection screens that are out there. And was like, oh, well, I can try and do this, or I can try and put this together, or I can make this happen, or I can do that, right? And then I just pushed it all together and be like, I like this, and this is my little thing. I want to do this, I want to do that, right? So there you go. Study what's out there, and I guarantee you'll be able to make some really cool stuff. But you have to study it. And it's very important that you study it, right? You can't just look at it. You have to study it. Learn from the people who have come before you. Learn from the people that inspire you today. Learn from them, okay? Because that's going to be the important part. You have to study. If you don't study it, it's not going to work, okay? So, tip number 1, time management. Make sure you actually do it, right? It's going to help you. Tip number 2, make sure you study. Study. Study the people who came before you and who are doing it right now, because it will help you produce the best product you can possibly produce. All right? Come on, let's move to tip number 3. Yep, this is the hard one. This is the one that most people fail at. You gotta practice. You gotta practice. Practice. If you do not practice, it's not going to matter. Okay? It's one thing to be able to draw, and it's one thing to be able to draw really well. Because if you stink at hands, it's going to show. If your facial expressions are always this, it's going to show, right? People are going to be like, man, that's really boring. That's not going to work. And you're like, well, but I need to get finished workout. Yes, you do. You do need to get finished workout. You do. But you know what? You also need to practice. Here's the thing, right? You need sketchbooks. Or if you're a digital person, you need a section on your computer where it's just, I do digital sketches. You need to practice, right? All that stuff that you studied. So if you're looking at compositions and character designs and all that kind of stuff, and you're like, study, 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 you gotta practice it. You gotta put it into practice. If you don't put it into practice, it's useless, right? But you got to study, and you need to separate things, all right? So I'm a sketchbook guy. I have a ton of them going. So currently at this moment, I have this many sketchbooks going. That's five different sketchbooks where I am literally drawing different things in each sketchbook, and I'm putting it aside and going, okay, I'm going to be drawing this. This is important, so I'm going to be drawing hands in this sketchbook. So that's my sketchbook hand, and this one I'm like, this is inspiration for my project Ninja Empire, right? That's what this is. This is where I'm doing this and that, but it's all about practice. It's all about trying to figure out what to do. I even have a book where I'm looking at old comics that I like, that I'm like, man, this really inspired me to do what I do, and I'm drawing it panel for panel, going, okay, why was this different? Why, like, I wouldn't have drawn it this way. How did they draw it? And then when I come across, I'm like, okay, so these are folds. They look different than my folds. Like, I would have drawn it like this. And then they bring it down and be like, they drew it like this. And then I give myself little notes, right? It's just like studying for a test. You have to practice. And the more you practice, the more the muscle memory is going to work. And you're like, I'm drawing hands, you know? And you're like, I drew this hand. And people are like, oh my goodness. Oh my, you drew this fantastic hand, right? Yeah, that's great. You need to practice. The more you practice, the easier it's going to get, which allows the grind to go faster. So if you're struggling with hands now, guess what? Draw hands. Lots and lots and lots of hands. Okay? Because then once you're drawing it later and you're like, man, okay, here we go. And then you draw the hand, you're like, wow, that really came together. I didn't have to worry about anything. I drew these hands. They were fantastic. Right? That's great. You need to be able to do that. Absolutely fantastic. But you have to do it. You have to practice. Have to practice. Have to practice. I cannot stress that enough. It's real easy to go through the theory, study, and do all these things, but if you never put it into practice, it's never going to work, and you will never get your thing out. Never. Never, ever. Never, ever, ever. Okay? You need to go out there and bust your butt. It is going to be rough, but I guarantee it. I put out a lot of guarantees in this video, but I guarantee that if you do it, right, if you actually do it, you will get better, right? And you'll be able to put out a product and people will be able to see it. But you gotta have to keep going with that grind, because if you don't, people are gonna be like, oh, well, you did something last year. I was hoping for something new this year, right? So you have to do that. And time management, study, and practice. Time management, study, and practice. It's very, very important that you do these things, okay? So, man, we are cranking through this. I hope that you're getting something and that you're still interested. And so, here we go. Here's number 4. Yep. This is the fun part, right? The actual development. This is where you get to do all the fun things that you ever want to do, right? You get to do the work, right? This is the fun part. This is where you get to go, oh, hey, look, I did this. Isn't that cool, right? And you get to do your videos, you get to do your animations, you get to do your comics, and you get to actually produce and feel real good and show people. You're like, look at what I did, isn't this awesome? And then you post it on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and Discord and all those places, and you're like, ooh, look, people like it, right? And they give you likes, and you're like, yes, this is good, and you get to see what's going on, but you get to be fulfilled in the fact that you actually produced something. Except for the fact that development is hard, right? Most people actually want to just draw one thing and be done. Like, hey, I drew this one thing, right? That's enough. Everyone's cool, right? No, your first idea is generally poop. Now, you might circle back around and be like, well, that was actually a pretty good idea, but I do like this idea, and you combine them all together. Very rarely do you put your first idea on paper and you're like, yep, that's the one. That is the one. No, it really isn't. It really isn't. Very rarely. Now, I'm pretty sure some of you are watching like, man, I put something down and bam, it was the first thing. I'm like, I'm very skeptical of that, especially as a professor, because I have plenty of students like, yeah, this is my first idea. I'm like, really? You changed the boots? Well, yeah, I mean, I changed it. Not your first idea then. Oh, well, I changed, like the story changed a little bit. Okay, so not your first idea. Oh, well, I had to fix the animation. They were doing this and I wanted to do that. Okay, so you changed it, right? Not saying that you can't have a great idea the first round, right? And you tried it, it was great, but you will need to fix it, right? Development is about fixing it, massaging it, and making sure that it is perfect is a hard thing to live up to, but that it is as good as it can possibly be, right? And you're like, look at this. This is awesome. This is awesome. That's what you want. You want to be able to go in and without a shadow of a doubt, look at something and go, yep, I put in enough time, enough effort. I tried enough variations to actually just like say, no, this is the one that I really wanted. I really like this one. This is the development. And sometimes it's rough, but if you actually look now, if you look at books, and there's so many art books that are out there now that are absolutely fantastic, and it's all about production, right? It's all about them going, yeah, here, we did 60 versions of the main character before we decided on the right one, right? And everyone likes that. I don't know, well, I can't say everyone. I know I like it. I love seeing the process that got us to that final piece, because you can render this thing and it looks all great and stuff, but seeing some ideas that happened beforehand are so inspiring to me, at least, and I'm pretty sure they'll be just as inspiring to you if you look at something and go, wow, wait a minute, I drew this a month ago and that hat really does work. I've got to tweak this here, but this will really work with the story now that I've developed, right? But if you've only done one drawing, right, you can't grow. Your character can't move. Your environments can't grow and be characters on their own. Your animation's not going to be as smooth. The storytelling is just going to be this much choppier than it should be, right? But you need to come in and just go, look, I'm not trying to do the final product right away. Every time I go into a project with my students or by myself, I try and make sure that I go, look, it's a process, right? We have to go through these things before we hit the final product. So many of my students will go, oh, look, I'm done. It's like, are you though? Like, everyone's trying to finish before they get started. And then you're like, okay, this is wrong. Your proportions are off. This isn't happening. Your storytelling's weird. Your color theory's off, right? And it's because they didn't want to do a different variation. They're like, oh, I want to do this, and that's it. And it's like, come on, guys, you can do more. You're very creative. You have the ability. All of the top people never, they might even say like, oh, I knocked it out on the first try. Nah. The first try of when they went to record the final product, right? Or the first time when they're like, hey, we did this take, but it's like, the first time is like a myth, because you had to build up to it. You always had to build up to it. You're always practicing. You're always studying and trying to make sure that it works, right? And you did it once and you're like, yes, I did it. Oh, well, that wasn't that good. Let me do it again. I'm going to draw. I'm going to paint. I'm going to sculpt. I'm going to do whatever. But you have to do it multiple times. And that's the development, okay? That's the important part that you have to remember, is that there is that process getting up to that final piece. And that is what is going to be key to make sure that your final piece is great. You have to develop. You have to do the process in practice and draw it again and again and again, just to make sure that that is where you want it to be. Because if you don't do that, you'll look back and be like, should have gave that character a scar. It will work a lot better with my story. Or they'd actually use a better knife, or they'd actually do this. That's the point, right? That's why you have 5 sketchbooks like I do, and you're like, oh, here's some development idea. Nope, those pants wouldn't work. Nope, no, oh, these might work. Oh, wait, these pants will actually work over here. This weapon will work over here, right? That's the thing. You're not discounting ideas, but you have to put them down on paper, on the computer, or however you do your creative stuff. You need to put it down. You need to get it out so that you can continuously look at it and go, I can work with this, or I need to grow with this. I need to make this bigger. I need to try and make this something else, right? That's the development. It is key to make that happen, right? Key to that final product where you're like, yes, that is it, right? You have to get there. There's always a process, and you should be willing and happy to do the process, right? It's the journey. It's always going to be the journey. The final product is great, but you will have more memories about the journey than the final product. Okay? So you have to be willing to go through that development. And if you don't go through the development, you're missing out. You're missing out on making a fantastic product. And now's the time to where you can spend it, right? Because for the most part, you got to stay home. Right? You're not getting into big, huge gatherings. You're mask covered and it's not as enjoyable to go do things, right? You might go, yeah, well, I need to go see somebody. But the thing is that you're spending more and more time at home. So if you're spending more and more time at home, you can dedicate more and more time to developing your product. Okay? And so that's where you can become better, right? Even if it's you, right? And you're like, I want to be a better artist. Great. Now's the time to do that. Develop your skills. Go to YouTube and Udemy and Skillshare and all those places. Look up something and go, I wanted to learn how to 3D model. Great. Go learn it. Go fail at it, right? That's great. But practice and do it. And it applies to all of the steps that we have said before, right? You want to be a better artist and you want to be like, I'm going to learn how to paint. Great. Time management, study, practice, develop, right? So it doesn't matter if your product is an actual physical product or if it's you and you want to be better, you still have to go through that development, right? And so now's the time to do that. Now's a perfect time, right? Now's the time when you're forced to stay at home, you're forced to stay away from people. Now's the time to get it done. Now's the time to have that product come out of it. Now's the time to become a better artist, right? Get to it. You can do it. I know you can. All right. So, like I said, we just went over it, but time management, excuse me, study, practice, development. The last one, number 5 is, yep, networking. Now, I know that I just said we're staying away from people, right? You got to keep our distance. We're not going out as much. Networking is key. Networking is going to be key to keep that grind going, right? You need this. And social media is making it so much easier to keep your network going, to keep them happy, to move forward. You know, it's so easy now for you to go out there and find your network, okay? And I say this because there's one thing that I've always said, you know, if you are the top dog in your friends group, like you are the creative genius in your friends group, you need to find more creative friends. Not saying you got to ditch these people, but you need people who are going to challenge you, who are going to critique you, who are going to praise you, who are going to give you the ability to grow and move forward, right? But you have to put in the effort, okay? Now's the time when you can put in the effort. Going to places like ArtStation, the newfound DeviantArt, just Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, anything where you can find like groups, creative groups that are like-minded, you know, and that are willing to do the same thing that you are willing to do. You have to find them, and then you have to be vocal. You have to let them know, hey, you know, I do this, post. I do this, post. And then comment on their stuff too. Hey, wow, that's really good, you know, and then develop a rapport so that you can actually have a group of people coming out of this that you didn't have before that are willing to support you when it comes time for your product to be done, right? But now's the time to lay that groundwork. Now's the time for you can actually do that. And one thing that I would suggest is do some live streaming. Yes, it's going to stink at the beginning, right? Everyone's streaming with 2 or 0 people. But if you let people know, like if you tell your friends, hey, come here and talk to me. Hey, do this, you know, like I need you guys here. I'm going to start streaming, right? That alone allows you to interact with these people that you haven't seen before. You get to know them. And then you're like, oh, okay. And then they come and find you at conventions. Or they support you and you're like, hey, you know, my computer just died. I'm going to be off, or my computer might be slow or something like that. And they're the ones going, here's some change. You know, it's not much, but it's something. And then it comes together, right? There are so many ways now for you to go and network with people that there's no reason for you can't grow an audience. But it is slow, right? The grind it's forever, right? And so even when you're trying to network and develop a new group of people that will support you and your art and stuff like that, it's going to be tough, right? But you have to be willing to move forward with it. I'm telling you, it's worth it. Especially if you're doing live streaming and stuff, you're going to develop a group of people who really, really want to be there for you because they can just dip out, right? Whereas on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook, they might click subscribe and like and all that stuff and then never come back, Okay. But if you're like on Twitch, or if you're doing stuff on YouTube and stuff, and you have live streams and people are there, they want to be there, right? Because they could just click off and go somewhere else. So you know that you have a captive audience, and that's where you can show your practice and your studying and, you know, all those things, that your development that's going to make you better. And then people are growing with your product. And then once you finally get that product done, right, people are like, I want that, man. I've seen this grow. I want to see what you got. And then if you're like, oh, by the way, I have some stuff that I never showed anybody, right? So then you have it, and they feel as though they've grown with you, but you have to put in the work. You have to put in the work, right? And now's the time to do that. You have more time because you can't really do as much as you used to, right? So now's the time to do that. With these 5 tips, they're very easy tips, right? Time management, watch your time. You need to study what's out there so that you can be better. You need to practice what you're studying. You need to get to the development. Don't settle for the first thing. And then show people and let people see what it is you're doing, okay? Because they're going to grow with you. And I'm telling you, if you do that now, if you do it now, once they're like, all right, you don't need to wear any masks anymore, there's no social distancing needed anymore, you can go to conventions, all that stuff is lifted, we've got a vaccine and life is great, you will have developed a product and a group of people that like what you're doing, and that effort that you would just normally be playing Fortnite or Call of Duty or whatever it is that you're playing will be in a product form. You're like, hey, look, I did this. So I cut down my video game playing time from 7 hours to 5 hours. But those 2 extra hours will give you more time, right? And will allow you to do your product. And that's what's important, right? The grind will never stop, whether there is a pandemic or not. But now's the time to benefit from it. Stay home and work and get that product out there. Let people see what you're actually trying to do. We want to see it. Everyone wants to see it, but you're the only one who can show it to us. You're the one who has to give us that product, that information, that drive, that love, that passion that you are doing. You have to be able to do it. That's what's important. That's what the grind is all about, showing other people what it's about. Well, I really hope that you got something out of this video, and we want to say thank you to Comic-Con for putting on Comic-Con at Home. This was fantastic. I cannot wait to see you guys in person again. But like I said, I hope you guys got something from this. And if you did and you like this information, check me out on YouTube, follow the Kaiser. Life's going to be awesome. We want to see your products. Please, please, please keep on that grind. Let's see what you got. And you know what? Follow me on the social media and let me know what you're doing. I cannot wait to see it, and I hope to see you at Comic-Con 2021. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys the next time.